The story of Joseph. Joseph was one of the 12 sons of Jacob, the son of Rachel, his beloved wife. From a young age, Joseph stood out among his brothers, not only for being his father's favorite son, but also for his upright character and for having dreams that seemed prophetic. Jacob, as a sign of special love, gave Joseph a long, colorful robe, something that symbolized honor and leadership in the culture of the time. This act further increased the envy and hatred that his brothers felt for him. One day, Joseph shared a dream with them. "We were binding sheaves of wheat in the field, and my sheaf stood upright while your sheaves bowed down around it." The brothers mocked him. "Do you think you will reign over us? That you will rule over us?" A short time later, Joseph had another dream. "The sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down to me." This time, even his father was puzzled. "What does this mean, my son? Will your mother, your brothers, and I bow down to you?" Despite the rebuke, Jacob kept these words in his heart. One day, Jacob sent Joseph out into the field to check on his brothers who were herding their flock far from home. When they saw Joseph from afar, they plotted against him. "Here comes the dreamer. Let's kill him and say that a wild beast has devoured him." But Reuben, the eldest, suggested that they throw him into an empty well, planning to rescue him later. So they stripped Joseph of his colorful robe and threw him into the well. While Reuben was away, a caravan of Ishmaelites passed by. Judah then suggested, "Why sell him as a slave? That way we won't have his blood on our hands." They sold Joseph for 20 pieces of silver, and the merchants took him to Egypt. To deceive their father, the brothers killed a young goat and smeared the blood on Joseph's robe. When Jacob saw the tunic, he wept bitterly, believing that his son had been devoured by a wild beast. "I will go down to the nether world mourning my son," Jacob said inconsolably. Meanwhile, in Egypt, Joseph was sold to Potiphar, captain of Pharaoh's guard. God was with Joseph, and everything he touched prospered. Potiphar realized this and made Joseph ruler of his household. Under his leadership, Potiphar's household flourished. However, Potiphar's wife began to desire Joseph. One day she tried to seduce him, but Joseph refused. "How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" Angered by his rejection, she grabbed his tunic as he fled and, with the garment in hand, falsely accused him of trying to rape her. Potiphar, furious, threw Joseph in prison. Even in prison, God was with Joseph. He gained the trust of the jailer, who put him in charge of the other prisoners. One day, Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker were arrested and had strange dreams. The cupbearer dreamed of a vine with 3 branches that blossomed and produced grapes, which he pressed into Pharaoh's cup. Joseph interpreted, "In 3 days you will be restored to your position." The baker, in turn, dreamed of 3 baskets of bread on his head, and birds were eating the bread. Joseph explained, "In 3 days you will be executed." Both interpretations came true exactly as Joseph had said. Joseph told the cupbearer, "Remember me when you stand before Pharaoh." But the cupbearer forgot. 2 years passed. Pharaoh had 2 disturbing dreams. In the first, 7 fat cows were devoured by 7 lean cows. In the second, 7 full heads of grain were consumed by 7 dry heads of grain. No wise man could interpret the dreams. Then the cupbearer remembered Joseph. He was summoned to Pharaoh. After hearing the dreams, Joseph said, "The dreams are a warning from God. There will be 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. Pharaoh must appoint a wise man to store up provisions during the prosperous years." Impressed, Pharaoh appointed Joseph governor of Egypt, making him second in command only to himself. During the years of plenty, Joseph stored up large quantities of food. When the famine came, not only Egypt but other peoples came to seek supplies. Among these people were Joseph's brothers. They went to Egypt to buy grain, but they did not recognize Joseph, who was dressed as an Egyptian governor. Joseph treated them harshly and accused them of being spies. They explained that they were the sons of an old man and mentioned their younger brother Benjamin. Joseph demanded that they bring Benjamin to prove their honesty. After much difficulty, Jacob allowed Benjamin to go to Egypt. When Joseph saw his younger brother, he could hardly hold back his tears. Still, he tested them one more time. He put a silver cup in Benjamin's sack and accused him of stealing. Judah then offered to take Benjamin's place as a slave, so as not to cause his father any more pain. This act of sacrifice deeply touched Joseph. Weeping, he revealed, "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery. Do not be troubled, for God meant evil for good, to save many lives." The brothers were stunned and afraid, but Joseph embraced them and comforted them. Joseph asked that Jacob and his entire family be brought to live in Egypt. Pharaoh offered them the land of Goshen, a fertile region. When Jacob arrived in Egypt and met Joseph again, he was deeply moved. Years later, Jacob died, and the brothers feared that Joseph would seek revenge. However, Joseph reaffirmed his forgiveness. "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." Joseph lived many years in Egypt, watching his descendants grow and prosper. Before he died, he asked that his bones be taken back to the Promised Land. And so Joseph's story remains a powerful testimony of faith, forgiveness, and divine purpose, showing that even in the midst of adversity, God can transform suffering into blessing. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to continue watching us. Hugs, and stay with God.